The Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
This tropical update is sponsored by the Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
A good Thursday morning to you, as it is now time for the tropical update. And September does mark the peak of the hurricane season. And it's typical during this month that we focus our attention on these areas shaded in red. Those would include the Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche, the Western Caribbean. Then across most of the Atlantic Basin, conditions do look somewhat favorable for tropical development. And so these are the prime target zones for the month of September. Now, at least for August, it was very quiet, unusually so throughout the tropics. But now for September, we have our fifth tropical storm of the season, Tropical Storm Erika. Here's the latest information that we have on this tropical storm. Right now, it's roughly centered 735 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. It's packing winds of 60 miles an hour, although there have been some occasional gusts higher than that. It's moving off to the northwest at 17 miles an hour with a central pressure of 997 millibars. Now, here's our satellite imagery of this tropical storm. It looks fairly well organized, at least in some respects, because it does have a good outflow pattern. However, still most of the convection appears to be firing on the east side of the center of circulation. Center right about here or so, so most of the deep convection again appears to be east of that center of circulation. However, the forecast models do suggest further strengthening, further organization, further deepening to be taking place, and this could become a hurricane in the next couple of days. Now, our forecast models too at least appear to be somewhat in agreement that this tropical storm will probably track to the northwest, although there is one model that is forecasting this tropical storm to head right on into the eastern Caribbean. So it's definitely an area that we have to watch very, very closely, and especially so if you have interest across the eastern Caribbean, like from Puerto Rico on into the Virgin Islands and down through the Lesser Antilles. This is certainly an area that it really has to be very mindful and very watchful of this tropical storm, because sometimes tropical storms do not really move all the time the way that we expect them to. So we have to watch out for the further developments regarding this tropical storm Erika. There's another suspect area, though, this one in the southern parts of the Gulf of Mexico, right here in the Bay of Campeche. There's been a persistent area of showers and thunderstorms, and it appears to be getting a little bit better organized. So we'll have to watch out for this region as well. Now, we are likely to be seeing maybe some squally conditions and maybe some rains developing throughout the east coast here of Mexico. Although I was just checking some of the observations around Veracruz, that is, and right now, it's not looking very impressive. We have a northerly wind flow coming in across Veracruz, and winds right now only about 10 miles an hour. So right now, it's not looking too intimidating, but again, that could be changing. Into the western Caribbean, we show signs of an upper level low swirling through here, so there would be some wind shear taking place throughout this region. So even though we have some tropical waves drifting off towards the west, chances of development here would be rather minimal, simply because we do have the wind shear in association with that upper level low. Farther to the east, we watch a few more waves coming off the coast. Here's a monstrous wave just getting ready to exit the African coastline. We'll have to watch that area too for the potential for some development. In the East Pacific we go, more action here. Just to the southwest of Cabo San Lucas, some 400 miles or so, we have another tropical depression, TD13E, right now a minimal tropical depression, but it will likely start to intensify. And then just to the south and west of that, another disturbance, this one about 1,300 miles or so southwest of Cabo San Lucas. So again, more action taking place in the East Pacific. Lastly, head over towards the West Pacific. Here's Japan. And recently we had Typhoon Bing that kind of skirted right across the southern part of Japan. It's now pulling back towards the open waters. This is Typhoon Bing right now, and it's still a minimal typhoon, packing winds of about 75 miles an hour. It's evolving, though, and changing. It's gradually transitioning into becoming extratropical, and it will likely do so in the next couple of days or so. At any rate, the moisture from this typhoon will likely get slung back on into Alaska, and we could be setting ourselves up for some locally heavy rains for southern Alaska later on this weekend. Meanwhile, we have another disturbance. Here's Tropical Storm Oliva out here across the open waters of the Pacific, and this will likely continue to intensify as it works its way off towards the west-northwest. Rick?
Stay with us for the top weather stories. In the west, more summer thunderstorms. The heat is building in the plains, and record chill in the east. A couple of dozen cities now. We'll have much more for you on WeatherScope.
Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
Well, we're approaching the peak of the hurricane season, and things indeed are becoming increasingly more active. Making weather headlines today, Tropical Storm Erika, the fifth tropical storm of the season. Right now, it's holding winds of 60 miles an hour, and it's roughly centered 575 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. Central pressure is estimated at 997 millibars, and it's continuing to work off towards the west-northwest at some 18 miles an hour. Now, our latest satellite picture is showing us that still Tropical Storm Erika has been undergoing some wind shear. We've had some serious problems with this tropical storm, at least as long as it encounters that wind shear. It's very unlikely that it will develop any further, but we'll still have to watch it very, very closely. Right now, the center of circulation appears to be right about here or so, with most of the convection firing to the north and the east of the center of circulation. Now, some of the models are indicating that at least for the next 24 hours, it's more or less going to be holding its own with winds of 60 miles an hour. If it can get beyond that point, and if it can withstand the wind shear that it's currently encountering, then beyond that 24-hour time span, then it could quite possibly intensify and eventually become a hurricane. So it's certainly something that does bear some watching, although again right now it's undergoing some southwesterly wind shear, which is helping to inhibit any further development. It's still quite a ways away from the land areas. Here's the Lesser Antilles, so again well over 500 miles away from the islands right now, but if it continues to work its way towards the west-northwest, that track would keep it north of the islands. There is one forecast model though that is suggesting that it could quite possibly come into the eastern Caribbean. So again, it's certainly an area that does bear some serious watching, and we advise you to keep it tuned to the Weather Channel. If you live across the Lesser Antilles, or if you have any interests across the Eastern Caribbean, please keep it tuned to the Weather Channel, and we'll keep you posted with the very latest updates. Now, heading off the African coast, we've watched another tropical wave coming off to the west. There's been a fairly monstrous tropical wave that is just getting ready to emerge off the coast. We'll have to watch that area, too, for the potential for some development. Out into the Atlantic we go. For the last few days, there's a low-pressure area off the southeastern coast. It continues to kind of swirl around out here, but we've watched a front kind of dropping now down to this region, and we think that low-pressure area will get absorbed with this trough and this front, so it shouldn't really pose any serious problems, although we have been seeing some rather choppy waters and stiff winds around the Outer Banks, at least this morning. Back into the Gulf of Mexico we go. We've had a few showers flaring up for the northern Gulf. Our biggest interest, though, is down here across the Bay of Campeche. And as we zoom in a little bit closer with this particular region, there has been an Air Force reconnaissance flight investigating this region, and right now there appears to be no circulation that is evident, but there has been a persistent cluster of showers and storms, and hence that is why it certainly does bear some watching. I was checking some observations though right along the Mexican coast around Tampico and Veracruz. Still the winds are fairly light though from the north, only about 10 miles an hour, so right now it doesn't look too squally, but certainly if you're going to be doing some boating back into the open waters, then you will encounter some rough conditions. But again, we'll certainly keep our eyes posted on that particular area. In the East Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Kevin right now. Here's the latest on Kevin. It's packing winds of 45 miles an hour. It's roughly centered 445 miles southwest of Cabo San Lucas. It's moving off to the west-northwest, and further strengthening is likely. Again, here's another satellite vantage of Kevin. Now, just to the southwest of that, another disturbed region, and this could quite possibly be another tropical depression trying to form out here. So again, we'll have to watch that area. Two distinct regions out here across the East Pacific that certainly bear some watching. And then in the West Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Oliva. Still rather weak at this point, but further strengthening is likely. And then we have Typhoon Bing, a minimal typhoon, but it's continuing to curve off towards the northeast. It should soon become extratropical, and one concern that we have regarding Typhoon Bing is that eventually that moisture will start to come over towards Alaska, and we could be setting ourselves up for some locally heavy rain for southern Alaska later on this weekend. Rick?
We'll begin by giving you the very latest information on Tropical Storm Erika. We have some new information just in. The wind still clocked at 60 miles per hour. It's moving toward the west-northwest at 21. It is now about 400 miles east of the Lesser Antilles. If you wanted to pick out an island, it would be about east of Guadeloupe or so. And it is moving more toward the west than it was, and this is a cause for a little bit of concern. I'll explain a little bit in a minute or two why we think that is, but it did come near enough to the islands so that some watches and warnings are in effect. And And I'll go ahead and read you those, and we'll have a graphic to show you that the next hour. The government of Antigua has issued a tropical storm watch for the islands of Antigua, Montserrat, Barbuda, Nevis, St. Kitts, and Anguilla. The government of the Netherlands Antilles has issued a tropical storm warning for the
Weather Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
We'll start in by giving you the latest information we have on Tropical Storm Erika. There have been some changes here that you really need to know about. For one thing, the direction of movement has changed a little bit during the afternoon. It's been moving more toward the west, and that does bring it perhaps a little bit closer to the islands than what the previous forecast had indicated. The top winds are 60 miles an hour. Now that has not increased at all, and we'll talk about why we think that is. And we don't think it's going to increase very much in the next several hours either. It's moving along at a pretty good clip, and it's only 460 miles, say, to the east of east-southeast of Antigua, so 15.5 and 55.0 if you're plotting. Now, the governments of some of the islands have gone ahead and issued some watches, and we want to detail those for you. Basically, what they include are just the northern Leeward Islands, and you can see where they are on this. And I'll read off the ones that are actually under warning now. These were issued at 5 o'clock, and the government of Antigua has issued a tropical storm watch. That includes Antigua, Montserrat, Barbuda, Nevis, St. Kitts, and Anguilla. Now, the government of the Netherlands Antilles has issued a tropical storm warning. That's a tropical storm warning, and that is just for the Dutch portion of St. Martin's Island. Nothing has been issued for the French portion so far, although what one side of the island will get, the other side will surely get as well. Now, what has happened this afternoon is that, well, we began to see it in the morning. Now, we can see it much better on our visible pictures. We can't quite see it so well on this one. I'm sorry we have a glitch there. But the center of circulation is actually right here on the edge, and we can see it very clearly on the visible picture. And that is a situation where you have a little shearing, and that has done two things. It's caused the intensification trend that we saw earlier in the day to at least halt itself for the time being, and it's also made it move toward the west, and that is going to bring the center in a little bit closer to the islands. Now, the official forecast so far indicates that the center still will pass a little bit to the north of the islands, but we want to caution you that we don't know that for sure. We don't know that much about it. Now, you really need to have a visible picture, because if a person just saw this infrared picture, you would think perhaps the center of circulation was over here and it was a stronger system than what it is. It's still 60 miles an hour, and that, of course, is still a formidable tropical storm. We'll show you the wind flow and what we think has been happening here. We don't have much westerly wind actually in the upper atmosphere, so we think this shearing effect that we've noticed is the fact that we have strong low-level easterly winds, and this low-level center has been moving on out there pretty fast. Elsewhere, we wanted to show you that we have a high, too, over the Bay of Campeche. Earlier today, we thought there might be some development there, but the Hurricane Center sent a reconnaissance aircraft down there this morning and didn't find any circulation center, and looking at satellite pictures during the day, it hasn't intensified any either. We wanted to show you also here that we have a very massive disturbance in size anyway, just coming off the coast of Africa, and we'll be watching to see how that fares as it gets farther out over the Atlantic. This low we had off to the east of the United States yesterday has moved very rapidly. It's moving just north of Bermuda, and they're getting some pretty good winds. They're getting gusts of wind now nearly to 40 miles an hour just the last couple of hours. The pressure's down pretty good too, about to 1,007 millibars. But that's not a tropical system, and it's moving fast, so it'll be on out of the way. Now, down here in the Bay of Campeche, where the aircraft was sent this morning, we have quite a cluster of showers down there, but there's no organization evident, and we haven't seen any increase in organization at all during the day. Quite a concentration of showers there. We still think with the upper high there that there's a chance that this might show some intensification, possibly develop a depression in the next day or two, but it certainly isn't happening very fast. Now, Kevin is off the coast of Baja California, 520 miles away, moving toward the west-northwest at 15. Top winds 50 miles an hour. That's forecast to increase a little bit, but not to hurricane intensity as it moves off to the west. It's not forecast to get any closer at all to Baja, to the Baja Peninsula. Here's a satellite picture, and you can see it right there moving off to the west. So that's the tropics for this hour. We'll talk about the Western Pacific when we come up next. We don't have any threatening situations there.
Conditions here.
Southeast of Antigua, sustained winds of 60 miles per hour, moving west-northwest at 21 miles per hour, and the estimated pressure at 1,000 millibars. So it has taken more of a west-northwest jog during the day today. As we look at the satellite picture, we got a little bad image in there, but you can get a feel for, again, how the actual eye, or the center of not the eye, but the center of circulation with this is not directly in the middle. It has experienced some shear with some of the easterlies. So that has been a factor in this thing trying to get its act together. Again, there are the Lesser Antilles. We'll continue to watch this region very, very closely. One other point to mention is that the tropical storm force winds extend about 145 miles out from the center, but that's mainly north and east of the center. So as far as feeling the effects, you're not going to be feeling the effects for quite some time here in the islands. Now, we do have tropical storm watches in effect. Anguilla, Montserrat, St. Kitts, Nevis, Barbuda, all included in that. Again, tropical storm watches that could be upgraded to tropical storm warnings sometime tomorrow if this continues on this particular track. So monitor the situation with us. You know we'll be keeping an eye on it and passing along the information to you. With a look at the forecast then for Friday. Time now to take a look at the very latest with Tropical Storm Erika, and it is now centered at 16.0 north, 56.3 west as of 11 o'clock Atlantic Standard Time, 370 miles east-southeast of Antigua, winds of 60 miles per hour. It is moving to the west-northwest at 18, so the west-northwest movement continues, and the estimated central pressure at 1,000 millibars. I want to show you where the tropical storm watches are in effect, and again, from Anguilla to Montserrat, tropical storm watches. That would include St. Kitts, it would include Nevis, Barbuda, it would include all those regions. So if you're watching from those areas, keep in mind that you are under a tropical storm watch. And just recently, the government of France has issued a tropical storm watch for Guadeloupe, St. Martin, and St. Barthélemy. So across those areas, tropical storm watches are in effect. Now I want to show you the satellite picture here. You can see very clearly how the convection or the thunderstorms have really blossomed during the evening, much more than what we saw during the afternoon. What is not as evident on the infrared satellite picture as what we would see on the visible is where that center of circulation is located. And it is now too dark to really get a good visible picture. It would just be dark. But the latest visible pictures as of the late afternoon did manage to show that the center of circulation was more so in this region, with a lot of the convection to the north and east of the center of circulation. And also with that, it also kind of showed that there might have been a little bit of convection trying to wrap around the center of circulation before it got so dark that we couldn't read the infrareds any longer. So we're kind of going by what we saw this afternoon, and we're also going by what this particular infrared is saying to us now. And the general picture is that we're continuing the west-northwestward movement. It is believed that there is an area of high pressure, upper level high, just to the north of this, which might help this to continue in a west-northwestward direction. So we'll continue to watch for that. The convection is flaring up. Starting to see some of the high clouds banding out, which might be an indication of intensification, but it's not always a sure thing. And of course, a lot of deep convection. Again, exactly where the center of circulation is located, it can be a little bit tough to see on this particular infrared picture, but we're going to continue to monitor this. Another reconnaissance plane will be flying on out as we head into Friday, and that will give us perhaps a better idea of the central pressure and whether or not this is intensifying at all. But there again, the northern Leeward Islands, and this is the area that we have the tropical storm watches in effect for, and we will continue to watch this very